Hey guys, today on JD Cars, we're going to be installing an FTP Motorsport N55 aluminum charge pipe kit on my BMW F30. Alright guys, I know you're probably really excited to see the Beamer back here. I've been at school trying to adjust, trying to get into a routine, handle all of my homework. I have tons of homework, no free time during the week, but I managed to break away over Columbus Day weekend here to come work on the BMW finally. I'm sure all the BMW fans are getting a little tired of the Jeep videos, so I'm really happy to be home, able to film some videos on the Beamer here. Beautiful fall foliage. Everything's starting to change color here. Love this time of year. But anyways, what we'll be doing today is swapping out the stock plastic charge pipe. I'm not entirely sure why BMW chose to go with plastic, probably just to cut down on cost. And as one could imagine, a plastic charge pipe is very prone to cracking and or blowing up. Obviously something that you don't want happening. The cold weather this winter and my tuning the car in the near future here will only make that charge pipe more prone to damage or blowing up entirely. So we're going to take care of it in the fall here. Some people may think that this is an unnecessary precaution to be taking. However, my friend George can tell you firsthand that on his stock N55 engine, he actually blew out the charge pipe. And if you look on the forums, this is a very prevalent issue. But anyways, let's get the Beamer into the garage up on the lift and let's get working. But anyways, let's get the Beamer in the garage and let's get working. Before we get working on the car, let's see what we receive in the box here from KiesMotorsports. Let's open this puppy up. See what we got. Alrighty, well packaged as always. Oh sweet, got a KiesMotorsport keychain as well as a brand new KiesMotorsports decal. Really hyped about that. Let's see what else we got here. Awesome, every piece is individually bubble wrapped. Awesome, make sure we don't have any damage, both appearance wise and functionality wise, because we don't want any leaks, of course. I believe this is the lower section. Really solid feel, clean machining. We have a new gasket, which feels very high quality, and a new clip here, so we won't have to reuse those. Take a look at the upper section here. Oh, that's beautiful. Look at that. All these fittings look very high quality, very cleanly machined. Again, we have a new O-ring seal on this end, also feels really high quality. New clip, of course, and where the mass airflow sensor goes, right here, we have some new fasteners. All of this looks very high quality. The welds on this pipe are just absolutely beautiful. Very nice craftsmanship. Everything's very cleanly machined. So to join the two sections of pipe, we have two hose clamps here and a silicone boot that connects the two pieces. As you can see here, this is a 4-ply silicone boot, so pretty substantial, really durable, should do a great job. So first things first, if you've driven your car within, I don't know, the last 2, 3, 4 hours and it's still hot, you're going to need to let it cool down. You don't want the engine to be hot because we are going to be working in very close quarters next to a lot of things that could be hot if you recently ran your car and you don't want to burn yourself. So make sure the car is cool when performing this job. So unless you're trying to fry your hands and fingers, make sure your car is cool when performing this job. Go ahead and pop the hood here, see how cool the car is. We'll also want to perform as much work as we can now on the ground before putting the car up on the lift or on jacks, and jack stands for those of you without access to a lift. I'll be using my impact and a right angle adapter here because it is quite difficult to get in there, so this should get the job done. Also, before I get dozens of comments roasting me for my engine bay being so dirty, I know the engine bay is dirty, the car is dirty, I've been at school. I will be giving it a good cleaning following this video. Switching over to this little 1/4-inch hand ratchet here because this couldn't even get in there, so this will do. You can also pick up those little thumb drivers, but I like having the extra leverage of the 1/4-inch ratchet here. All right, I got my 2 screws out. Once we have those 2 screws removed, you can then come in here and carefully pry out the MAF, twist it back and forth a little, just be gentle with it. There we go. And I am going to disconnect this by pressing down on this clip, just because we don't want this in there getting jostled around and potentially damaged. So I'm going to set this aside on the workbench. I've already released this hose, but the next fitting we'll have to release and remove is this one right down here. Camera's not really focusing too well on it. It's this fitting right down here, and I've removed it, so hopefully I can show you here. You're gonna have to squeeze either side of this fitting to pop it off. It can be pretty stubborn, so just be patient and careful. Try not to break it. Next, using a small screwdriver or a small pick, I'm gonna release the top clip right here. I'm just gonna basically pull up like so. And to avoid this getting in the way, you can just pull out from the side and remove the entire retaining clip from the top pipe here. So at this point we do need to get the car up in the air and access from underneath to continue the installation. Now a lift isn't necessary. Yes, it's going to make the job a lot easier, but it's completely possible and doable to do this on the ground with jack stands. And another note I'd like to make is pretty much every installation guide showing you how to install a charge pipe on an N55 tells you that you have to remove the intercooler, and I really don't want to fuss with all that down there. So we're going to see if we can't do this installation by pulling it up out through the top, opposed to the traditional method of pulling the charge pipe down out of the car. If we can do that, that could save us quite a bit of time, so we'll see if that's possible. So to access underneath here, we're gonna have to remove the belly pan, which is secured by, I believe, 22 8mm screws all around the perimeter as well as in the center here. Allow me to show you how this works here on the old charge pipe. So basically we have the black plastic clip, and it has these little tabs on the back. It has 3 tabs. They go into these 3 holes here. So basically you just put them into the holes and then slide up to secure it. When you're removing it, of course, it's the opposite. This thing is jammed up this way in its secured position, and to release it you pull down. So they're not that frustrating to use, but it is difficult because you can't see behind there very easily. Okay, that wasn't nearly as hard as many people made it out to sound. Yeah, this came out very easily, like in 30 seconds here, just using my hands. I just came under the car. I'm laying on the creeper here. Set this aside for now. I just laid down under the car here and pulled down each side towards myself, and that worked out actually really well. Next step here is to remove this metal retaining clip, probably using a flathead. And as you can see, it's secured in this little slit here. So we're gonna push it this way and then pull it down and out to remove the clip. And as you can see here, that releases the bottom of the charge pipe. At this point, in theory, we should be able to remove the charge pipe through the top of the car. So I'm gonna lower the car down back to an easy working height so I can work from above, and we'll see if we can't pull this out without fussing with the intercooler here. However, after seeing how easy it was to remove that black retaining clip and metal retaining clip, I'm really not that opposed to doing the same thing over on this side and dropping the intercooler, as it's just 2 T25 torque screws on either side. So if we can't get it out through the top, it's not the end of the world. This isn't a tremendous amount of work to remove. Boom, we got it, baby. Factory charge pipe removed. As you can see, it's made of pretty brittle plastic here. I'm not gonna be too harsh on it, but plastic is plastic. So I'm really glad we're gonna be replacing this with an aluminum pipe. So now before we can install the new charge pipe here, we need to reinstall the mass airflow sensor. So we're gonna remove these 2 4mm screws provided and installed on the FTP pipe here. Take the mass airflow sensor, and we'll wanna install it in this orientation here so that the connector is pointing towards the wire and the corresponding connector. Make sure you have your green seal here. You may want to slightly lubricate this to make sure that it slides in nicely, and when you insert this, make sure that that seal doesn't pop out. You want to make sure it stays seated in that little recessed area. Reinstall the 2 provided screws, tighten them down here. And once we have these torqued down, we can now install the new upper charge pipe here. And once we have these 2 tightened down, we can then take the rubber boot, slide the larger diameter side onto the upper pipe, along with the larger hose clamp, and we can tighten that down at this time. At this point, with our mass airflow sensor installed, as well as the rubber boot, we can drop the upper charge pipe into place. We can slide the top part onto the throttle body. However, to do so, we're gonna have to pull out this metal retaining clip, same exact style as the plastic one. We're just gonna pull it out, leave it inserted this time, of course. And once we have the charge pipe fitted in here, side note, it's really not too difficult. You just drop it right in, slide the charge pipe up onto the throttle body here, and then we can press down this metal retaining clip to make sure it stays on here on the throttle body. And a side note to make sure that your O-ring is properly secured inside the pipe there, and make sure, of course, that the metal retaining clip is doing its job of holding the charge pipe on there. At this point, before I reconnect anything, I'm gonna put the car up in the air again, go underneath, and we'll install the lower section of the pipe. All right, back under the car here, and you can see the new FTP boot right here and part of the upper pipe. Obviously, our lower pipe is gonna connect to this end of the boot here, and the other end is gonna go to the intercooler here. Now, I did just grab my lower pipe, and it is possible to sneak your lower pipe right in between here, but having the intercooler in the way just complicates things to the point that it's not really worth it to leave the intercooler installed. It's gonna be a frustrating process. So I'm just gonna come over to the other side, and like before, we'll remove the black plastic clip on this side of the pipe, the metal retaining clip, and then we'll have two T25 torque screws on either side. And removing those two fasteners allows you to drop down the intercooler by pulling on this little tab here. Pull down on the intercooler. Don't sit directly under it with your eyes because stuff is gonna fall down. But I think pulling it down just that bit there should allow us to maneuver our hands more easily in there. But because this other hose right here is rubber, we have flexibility there, and we're not really at risk of damaging anything. So I'm gonna try to finesse our lower pipe in there. Just come in like so. You need to match it up with that boot right there. So I'm gonna need two hands to hold this and got it into the boot. Just give me 1 second. Got that positioned more or less. And quick note, make sure that the hose clamp for the lower pipe there that we have yet to tighten, make sure the head of that Phillips head is facing downwards so that you can easily tighten it after we get it fully installed. So now that we have this pipe installed, we can push the intercooler back up. And again, this is gonna take two hands to guide both of these pieces and connect them. You're gonna need to pull this metal retaining clip here, and we can now connect these two pipes. Again, make sure that the O-ring is properly seated, and yeah, I'll check in with you in just a second. All right, well, I finally got this installed. Guys, I spent a stupid amount of time trying to get this on here. So basically, as every video out there shows you, as far as I know of, and all the instructions tell you to hook up the lower section of the pipe to the silicone boot prior to connecting it to the intercooler here. And I found that to be really difficult. I could not get this lower pipe to seat properly on the intercooler here, and I just couldn't get it far enough to get this metal clip on. So I said, all right, we'll try a different way. So I pulled the whole intercooler. Really not a big deal, it takes 2 seconds. But I dropped the intercooler, pulled out the lower section of pipe, and I attached this lower section of pipe to the intercooler prior to installing it. So it slid right on there, no problem. Got the metal clip on there, had it secured, and then I put the entire unit, the intercooler with the lower pipe attached to it, put that in, and I lubricated the other end of the lower pipe that went into the silicone boot. I used some lithium grease, slid right in there, no problem at all. So I highly recommend you go that route, save yourself some time and frustration. And then slightly frustrating, but not the end of the world, was getting that black clip back on the back side of this pipe here. But anyways, with our two T25 screws reinstalled on the intercooler, both our metal retaining clips and the plastic retaining clip over there, and both hose clamps on the boot tightened down, our work here is done. We just have to reinstall belly pan and all of those 8mm screws. You can lower the car down and then finish the job up top in the engine bay. All right, so up top here, all that's left to do now is to reconnect our vacuum hose here, for those of us with automatic transmissions, of course. Pop this right on here. It's so difficult to get your hands down there. All right, there we go. Jeez, that's harder than it should have been. And last but not least, we gotta reconnect our mass airflow sensor here. Plug that puppy in, and we're all set. So that completes the installation of the FTP Motorsports N55 aluminum charge pipe kit. It really didn't take me terribly long. It took me probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. Keep in mind, I was filming the entire process and I was figuring this out because there weren't actually any instructions included. I'd say with the knowledge of this video, you can probably get this install done in about 3 hours at home. It's really not too challenging. It's just time consuming because you kind of have to maneuver your hands and tools in a very tight space here. But that being said, you really shouldn't be intimidated at all about dropping the intercooler. Takes literally 2 minutes to disconnect it, and other than that, I'd suggest attaching the lower part of the charge pipe to the intercooler prior to putting that assembly back in. I would put that assembly back in, those two pieces, as one assembly. Lubricate the other end of the lower charge pipe. That'll make attaching it to the silicone boot a lot easier. I'm gonna go take this for a test drive. One of the advertised benefits of this charge pipe is increased flow. I'm not entirely sure if that'll make any noticeable difference, but we'll see, and I'll definitely update you guys with my experience in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please go smash that like button. It really helps me out. Be sure to leave any questions, comments, or suggestions down below in the comments. Subscribe for more BMW content, and I'll see you guys next time on JD Cars.